Welcome to ReExamined Blueprints, where we take a look at various starships found in the Star Trek universe. Before we begin, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons. On today's edition, we'll take a look at the Federation Class Dreadnought, originally conceived of by Franz Joseph in the Starfleet Technical Manual, which was published in 1975 by Ballantine Books. As a point of reference, this ship would have been in service during the original series, sometime in the late 2240s or early 2250s. She was considered the first great experiment in warp drive and increased speeds. Like most warships, the Federation Class Dreadnought had only a limited number of functions. Now, we all know what the official line is of the Federation. Starfleet doesn't make ships of war, but of exploration with the capacity to defend themselves. That may be the official line, but it could only be sustainable as a policy in times of peace. During times of conflict, or when hostilities are probable, Starfleet is not only expected, but required to become an instrument of war. Any other policy would be both naive and short-sighted. The Federation Class Dreadnought was designed to be a solution for both war and peace. An impressive ship that could be used to patrol, ferry delegates, and attend official ceremonies in the core worlds under the pretense of defense. This strategy could be justified, as it would be the reverse of what the Klingon and Romulan empires practice. Both tend to keep their core worlds defended by lighter craft and place more heavily armed ships at the border. In the event of war, the Federation Class Dreadnought, the most heavily armed and shielded Starfleet vessel of that time, would be pulled from the core worlds and moved to the front line as a capital ship. In fact, she would lead fleets into battle. There were issues with the ship from the beginning. The warp engines mounted on the ship were part of the standard fleet-wide design, which worked well with other ships launched in the 2240s. It was supposed that a third nacelle would mean greater speed, but the simulations differed greatly from the actual construction. While the warp core did produce power to expected levels, the third nacelle didn't improve speed by any noticeable margin, and the ship's best speed remained comparable to other ships of that time: Warp 6 cruising and Warp 8 emergency speed. Another drawback was the Dreadnought was not a long-range or extended mission craft like the Constitution class. While they could spend months on patrol, it was always assumed they would be close enough to planets or support craft to be restocked and rearmed more regularly than most other ships. There were issues with the ship's maneuverability. Early on, Starfleet found this ship could take on any ship its size, but it was vulnerable to attack by smaller, more maneuverable craft. This meant it was better in combat to have the Federation-class Dreadnought as part of a fleet rather than any solo missions. On the positive side, the increased size of the warp core meant more power for the shields and weapons. The Federation class could hang in a firefight longer and do more damage than any other Federation ship of that time. Another feature of the Federation class was that it had a two-bridge system. The first was the ship's standard bridge, which controlled the operations of the ship. A few decks below, a flag bridge to coordinate fleet actions was added. While the ship itself would have a captain, the flag bridge would be under the command of a fleet captain, commodore, or admiral. Its service began sometime in the late 2240s and 50s, and the last dreadnought was retired in 2284 when the keel was laid for another great experiment, the NX-2000, Excelsior class. While some may argue that the Federation-class Dreadnought was a failed experiment, many would disagree. The class protected Starfleet interests for 40 years and participated in actions both diplomatic and in war. She moved warp theory forward and paved the way for ships designs that came later, including the four-nacelle Constellation class. The Federation class gave both the Klingons and Romulans pause in their attempts to test the United Federation of Planets at the border, and when she fought, lived up to the historical expectations of all dreadnoughts that came before. Keep the discussion going. Leave your thoughts and comments below. After you like and subscribe, please send a link of this video to your favorite Star Trek fan. It would be much appreciated. As always, thank you for watching.